All right, it looks like we are. Oh, it looks like Jason's doing this today. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Kansas City Oasis. I am Nikki Actipus. I will be your MC today. And if I get a little slap happy, it's the last day of fall break for me, so please bear with me this morning. If you've never been here, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so glad you're here. If you have been here since the beginning of time, welcome also. We love to see all the faces. We love seeing new folks, old folks, or I should say veterans. That's better. So anyways, yes. So we have an awesome program for you today. And before we get started, I always like to start our programs by saying our 5 core values here at Kansas City Oasis. So people are more important than beliefs. Reality is known through reason. Human hands solve human problems. Meaning comes from making a difference. And be accepting and be accepted. So I think we have a really good program today that's going to talk about that a little bit. And what I would like to do now is welcome up our musician, and let me scroll through my little list here to find her. Give me a second. So Brooke Kafka is our musician for this morning. Good morning, Brooke. Welcome to Oasis. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit. And then whenever you feel like jumping into your songs, go right ahead.
Right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Brooke Kafka. I am a saxophone and piano player as well as a vocalist here in Kansas City. I play in about 9 groups, so I stay busy, but I'm really glad to be here today. I'm going to be doing an arrangement of covers for you today between piano and sax. The first one is actually an original praise hymn from when I was growing up in church, and I found it, and I was really glad I found it because it's one of my favorite songs. It's called Ain't No Rock. So here we go. Ain't no rock gonna cry in my place, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. Ain't no rock gonna cry in my place, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. You got to praise his holy name, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. You got to praise his holy name, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. Ain't no bird gonna sing his praises, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. Ain't no bird gonna sing his praises, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. You got to praise his holy name, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. You got to praise his holy name, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. Ain't no tree gonna lift its branches, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. Ain't no tree gonna lift its branches, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. You got to praise his holy name, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. You got to praise his holy name, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. Ain't no rock gonna cry in my place, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. Ain't no rock gonna cry in my place, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. You got to praise his holy name, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. You got to praise his holy name, as long as I'm alive to glorify his holy name. All right, this next one, these are kind of all happy songs. I feel like everybody kind of gets depressed around this time of year, especially me, so I try and do things that kind of lift up and build people up here. So this next song is called Sing About It. It's by the Wood Brothers. If you get too worried, what you have to do is sing. If you get worried, what you have to do is sing. If you get worried, what you have to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. If you get lost, what you have to do is sing. If you get lost, what you have to do is sing. If you get lost, what you have to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Sing about joy. Sing about love and open at last. Sing about your troubles, just might pass, just might pass. If you get broken, what you have to do is sing. If you get broken, what you have to do is sing. If you get broken, what you have to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Sing about joy. Sing about love and open at last. Sing about your troubles, just might pass, just might pass. If you get too worried, what you have to do is sing. If you get worried, what you have to do is sing. If you get worried, what you have to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Sing about your trouble, just might pass. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What a great way to start a Sunday. Maybe you were on earlier. I was telling Aurora, I only woke up about an hour ago. So having great music to start off my morning is great. So we will hear from you again a little bit. Thank you so much, Brooke, for opening up our gathering today. So moving right along in Kansas City Oasis fashion, what we do next is we have a community moment, which is somebody from our community. When I say that, I mean somebody who has been around with Kansas City Oasis for a while. They come and they talk about something they love, something they hate, something they read about, or a vacation they went on, a hobby they have. And this morning we have Russ Conrad, and let me find you on here. I see you. So I did not get any introductory words for Russ this morning. So I will just turn it right on over to you, mystery man of the hour, and tell us what you got to tell us this morning.
Sure. My name is Russ Conrad. For those of you who don't know me, I am an instructor at the Army Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth. And among the subjects that I teach are the use of information to influence. And I also teach critical and creative thinking. And I've been thinking lately about media bias. And so I wanted to share some material with you. Can you guys see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so most of the information I'm going to give today, I found in this small pamphlet called How to Detect Media Bias and Propaganda, written by Doctors Paul and Elder, who are among the founders of the Foundation for Critical Thinking. I found it quite interesting, and this is in line with my interest in the use of information. So I'd like to start out, first of all, by taking a look at media itself. And so with the simple idea that a lot happens every day in the world, and only a tiny fraction of it ever gets reported as news. And so that in and of itself and what gets reported is influential in our thinking. So a few things to think about there. First of all, depending on the media that you use, there's limits in time and space. If it's print media, then there's only a certain amount of space in a newspaper or magazine dedicated to a particular subject. Broadcast, it's airtime, and I find even on the internet, I find that the internet behaves more like print media in that it's got to grab your attention in a short amount of space and then keep it there in a short amount of space before you start scrolling down. Otherwise, you're not going to look at the website or you're going to lose interest. So all of this means that material needs to be edited. And editing, of course, is going to limit what gets reported and how much of what gets reported. Keep in mind also that in a professional media, journalists have a deadline to meet. They've got a deadline every day. They're responsible to their editors for their product, and that media outlets are under a great deal of pressure to report things first, to break the story. And this is all important because it's a competitive business, and however idealistic or professional journalists are, in the end, they have to sell a product to a target audience. So the other thing is to recognize that all media, in fact, all people, have a point of view or perspective. Nobody knows everything about the truth. Nobody has all of the facts. Every point of view has some of the facts and has some of the truth, but they're all different in what information that they're exposed to. All points of view consider certain things to be important, and points of view tend to downplay other facts. So it's important to realize that no single point of view or media outlet has a total understanding. So what causes, it's not only the information that you're exposed to that you can see from your point of view, but also how you interpret that information, your biases, and your biases as the consumer, and the biases of the media that you are consuming are all formed by a variety of things: culture, value, personal experience, education, wealth. All of the things that you see listed on the left-hand side of this chart all tend to funnel into a bias. And your point of view is filtered by, is what you can see filtered by what you're willing to see. And this leads into an idea of sociocentrism, which is an idea that your way of thinking and your set of values are really the only true values. And this is probably the hardest thing to get over, is understanding that people believe their way of thinking is the right way. So what do you do? First of all, you want to achieve a bit of objectivity when you consume this information. To do that, first and foremost, recognize your own biases. Perhaps the most difficult thing to do is to recognize your own biases. Secondly, when you get into understanding a matter, study the history of it. When COVID first broke and we started having COVID restrictions, I became very interested in what happened in the Kansas City area during the 1918 flu epidemic. It's remarkable the parallels that are there. But again, understanding the historical context within which a subject enters is worthy of some study to be objective about it. And then, of course, examine multiple points of view, not just your own, not just the perspective of the source that you're learning from, but also try to imagine other points of view. Understand the point of view from which the story is constructed, identify what the target audience is of that media outlet, and recognize the point of view that it's not considering. I think the most professional media outlets will make some attempt to study an issue from multiple points of view. But even there, again, limited with time and space, they can't look at all perspectives. And then, of course, you have to try to distinguish what are the facts and what are the opinions that are being expressed, or what are the conclusions that are being drawn from your media source. So how do you get useful information out of all of this? Each point of view, including propaganda, contains elements of truth. We have to understand that and try to glean the truth from what's being presented. But you also have to be sensitive to the things that influence the media source: advertisers, control of the government. In some cases, media sources are the official outlet of government or are influenced by the government, Russia being a best example. Powerful interests and owners, competitors, and then also the attention grabbers, the novelty or sensationalism of a headline. You have to be sensitive to those things. Is that what they're going for? And then understand how a story is put together. So understanding how a story is put together, first of all, the target audience of a media source, what would they consider newsworthy? There are different, just consider the difference between local news and national news. People living in New York City have very little interest with what's going on in Kansas City. Take a look at how the headline is constructed and why is it constructed that way. Even reputable media outlets have headlines that are designed to draw you in. And this is especially true on the internet, where the headline may be sensationalized, but the article itself is perhaps factual. So you have to study that. What is highlighted, what information is downplayed, of course. You have to notice also the stories which stories are buried back on page 6 and why. But understand also that all stories are influenced by other things going on in the world. I happen to have been serving overseas in Kosovo when that nation declared its independence in 2008. That day, it was buried back on page 6 of the newspaper because on page 1, Michael Jackson was going to trial, and that preempted everything. So you have to, and there's nothing really you can do about that. Just recognize that it's going on. Take a look at how much space and time is given to a story and ask why. What's the interest there? And then take a look at alternative sources. Again, I mentioned historical perspective. And then, the last notice that I have there, professionalism. Is the story presented in a professional way? Does it look at multiple points of view? So being a critical consumer of the news, in the end, is what it's all about. The first most important point is you've got to do the work in order to examine multiple points of view, to examine multiple media sources. And only by examining multiple media sources do you understand what the trustworthy sources are. What are the news sources that do examine things from multiple perspectives, who interview people from both sides? And then finally, don't make judgments on an issue until you have a good amount of facts to work on, knowing that you can never know all the facts. The other thing that you have to do, I think, is to develop an intellectual humility and recognize that you don't have all of the facts, and that what you are reading, even your favorite and most trustworthy news sources, are limited in the information that they can have access to and their target audience perspective, that they all have internal biases. Be willing to accept new information that contradicts, perhaps, what you have been hearing. And then, of course, finally, again, recognize your own biases and how that shapes your thinking. And then the bottom line, as I put here on the slide, is when you do this, you are less easily manipulated and you are a better critical thinker. Now, if you're interested in more information about this subject, I would recommend that you go to the website of the Foundation for Critical Thinking, where they have a lot of different materials about not only media bias, but also the manipulation of information to influence. Okay, and that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Russ. So on that note, let me pull myself up here. So on that note, I forget what question I was going to ask you. So do you think that folks here in the US, do you think that we just didn't get in school, we didn't get the opportunity, or we didn't get taught critical thinking skills? Or why do you think we are so lacking in our own individual critical thinking skills?
Well, first of all, I don't think that we're that much different from people around the world. They all suffer from this issue. However, we are very America-centric here. And we see that, and that's natural, of course. We're Americans, we're interested in matters that deal with America and with the things that are in the best interest of our nation and our locality. However, you know, I grew up, like many of us did, you know, this is the land of the free and the home of the brave. And while I'm not saying that that's not true, it was only after I went and lived overseas for a few years that I began to see the United States in a different light, that maybe there's some room for improvement. Are we in fact the most free? And issues like that. So I think experience is a great influence on the biases that we have. And if we have a lack of experience, folks who don't get overseas perhaps don't have the motivation to question things.
Well, yeah, I fully agree with that. As somebody who has also had the privilege to live elsewhere besides the United States, getting that global perspective kind of broadens the mindset of actually seeking out other information besides just what confirms our own biases. Well, thank you so much, Russ, for that. There's multiple comments in the chat talking about how this has been helpful to them, or just folks starting discussion. So if you want to keep up that discussion, maybe whatever breakout room you go to, those folks will be glad to have you this morning.
Great.
So with that, following that awesome community moment, here is my chance to plug community moments. So if you would like to do what Russ just did with a different topic, or maybe you have a rebuttal to his topic, please reach out to Mark Dixon. He will get you set up with a date to do that. We love hearing about hobbies, vacations, information like Russ just gave, whatever you're feeling, we want to hear from you. So reach out to Mark Dixon if you would like to be a community moment. And in other news, I've got a couple of other announcements before we move forward. We had a couple of birthdays. Well, we have one birthday coming up, and we had one birthday last week. So Mark Menden's birthday was on the 26th of November. So if you know Mark, the other Mark, one of our other Marks, say happy birthday. I'm pretty sure he's here today. I think I saw his name earlier. So happy birthday, Mark. And John, and I'm going to mutilate this last name because that's what I do in life. Muter's birthday is Thursday, December 2nd. So if you know John, please go ahead and give a happy birthday to him, or a vaguely or make a nemesis. I don't know, whatever you're feeling. So those are our birthdays. If you have any life events that you would like to share with our Oasis community, reach out to one of us in leadership and we will announce it. So that's birthdays, anniversary celebrations, new babies, whatever you're feeling that you want us, your community, to know, let us know and we will announce it. And finally, before we head to breakout rooms, we are currently finalizing stuff for our adopted families for the holiday season. So if you are looking to pitch in monetarily, or if you have donations that you would like to put forth for our adopted families for this holiday season, please reach out to Julie Wisman. She is out and about today collecting stuff. We also take monetary donations so we can get whatever else is left on the list. And Julie Wisman is the person to reach out to on that. And before we go to breakout rooms, I'm going to tell you all what's happening because I see a few new faces on here today. So breakout rooms are our coffee break that we would normally have in person. You will get dropped into a random room with random people. Maybe it's somebody you know, maybe it's somebody you don't. Have a good conversation, stare at each other, and contemplate life, whatever you're feeling for the next 10 minutes. That time is yours. So we will see you on the other side of coffee break. And as a reminder, if you stay here in the main room, please mute yourself and turn off your video because we are still streaming live. I will see you all in 10 minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. Still waiting on some people, seeing the numbers go up. Awesome. Give it a couple more seconds here. All right, I think we have everybody. So with that, I hope you got to talk to some old friends. Maybe you made some new friends, which is awesome also. And without further ado, I will turn it back over to Brooke for some more music.
All right, thank you. This next song I'm going to be doing is a Grateful Dead cover. So I do play in a Grateful Dead band. If anyone likes Grateful Dead music, that's my favorite thing to play. A lot of saxophone, a lot of singing, but this is a song from there. It's called Althea. I breathe and forgetting the love we breathe.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If you couldn't see, there were a whole bunch of silent claps, which is how we do it here at KC Oasis virtual. So thank you so much, Brooke. We will hear from you again one more time at the end of the program. So without further ado, we have two very special guests with us this morning. Some of you may have heard a little bit about in the news. Maybe you've been lurking on Instagram and found these individuals. We have two high schoolers from North KC here to talk to us today about their fight against banning books in their school district. So I would like to welcome up Aurora and Holland. So if you two can turn on your cameras so I can spotlight you and so I can stop talking, that would be fantastic. So there's one. Let me find the other. Good morning, folks. I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourselves, and then wherever you decide to take this, tell us a little bit about what you're up to and where you're going with stuff. And I will stop talking and let you guys do your thing.
Awesome.
Hi,
Thank you.
Duggan. Hi. Hi, my name is Holland Duggan, and I am the co-president of Northland Student Association and co-writer of the NKC Students Against Book Banning petition. And
I'm Aurora, Nicol, the other co-president and co-founder, co-writer, whatever. And we're just kind of here to talk about the last month or so and how well, first you have to identify the people that have been involved, and that starts off with the Northland Parent Association, which is a group of parents that kind of pay to join, and it's this little association that started about a year ago, probably maybe a year and a half ago, and it's parents from all around North Kansas City and also not North Kansas City. They have people from Blue Springs in there, and so parents from Liberty and North Kansas City high schools. So Holland and I are in a district that has about 40 schools and 4 high schools. And but we both go to North Kansas City High School, and we have our class together is we're both on our in journalism. We're both on our school magazine. Holland's also involved with our school's broadcast. And on October 26th, the Northland Parent Association was at our district's board meeting. And at that board meeting, the president of the NPA, Jay Richmond, kind of went up, and another parent was holding up some big boards, and he read 4 excerpts from 4 books that are available in libraries here throughout at the high schools, really. And those books were Fun Home by Alison Bechdel, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, and then, do you remember the other 2 names? Out of Darkness by I think Ashley Perez, and then I forget the last one.
Lawn Boy?
Yes, yeah. So it was those 4 books, and he read sexual scenes from each, and then he said that having these books available in our libraries is pornography, and that if an adult distributed this to a minor, they would get charged for solicitation. I don't totally remember.
Soliciting a minor.
Yeah. And So he basically read this crazy speech, and then another parent went up and also agreed with him. So, and then we find out about this, Holland and I, and we're outraged. We're like, this is crazy because that meeting was on a Tuesday, and within that week, all 4 of those books got pulled from libraries across our district. Notably, in our school's library, All Boys Aren't Blue and Fun Home were the only ones that our library had, so they were taken out. And so we made a petition on November 2nd, and then we made like an Instagram to promote it, and that's the Northland Student Association. So it's basically in direct contrast to the Northland Parent Association, although our group is not radically right. So within the first 2 days of the petition, we got 500 signatures. On November 4th, we got to 500. And then Fox 4 contacted us, and they did a segment which kind of took it nationally. Although, not to toot my own horn, I was the first one to report on it for our school magazine.
Yeah.
And then some other like news outlets around the country also reported on it, which was kind of crazy because within that week, Virginia, a school district in Virginia also did the same. They pulled more books, and the parents that complained were crazier. And then kind of it's happened in other places. There's some schools in Kansas as well. And then on November 14th, the petition gained over 1,000 signatures on the 14th. And then Holland and I had 8 other people that went with us to our district's board meeting. So that was the next month. But I also think it's notable that they did put the books back that same day. So the district sent an email saying they were putting the books back after they have been like reported on from a bunch of news sources, etc. So they did put the books back, and then 10 of us went to the board meeting, and I think Holland can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and so we spoke, 10 students, including me and Aurora, spoke at the school board meeting, and the driving force behind like this entire movement was just us being passionate about having representation in our libraries, because the NPA had like Northland Parent Association had a list of over 28 books, and so all of us had read these books and felt impacted because, you know, whether we're queer or people of color, like it had something that represented us or our experience in it, which was something we didn't necessarily see in a lot of media, especially media in our school. And so we felt like they were trying to erase our voices and our experience. And so we talked about it, and then there's like one of the first speakers was Charles Maloney, who talked about him being, you know, someone white, and I related to this myself, who's someone who's white, and I can't understand 100% the experiences people of color go through. I can't experience that, but being able to read books by people of color talking about their experiences gave me perspective and helped me, you know, broaden my mindset. And so to take these away kind of limits our ability to educate ourselves and learn about other perspectives. And it's also a violation of our human rights, a violation of the First Amendment. So erasing voices and perspectives because they're different than our own just damages our society, our community. And so that's why we were so passionate about it, because All Boys Aren't Blue was a book I read and had a personal impact on me because it helped me to come to terms with my identity as a queer person, and helped me to just feel okay in myself and my identity, and helped me to my journey of self-acceptance. And so the big thing that the Northland Student Association stands for, and the big thing behind this whole entire thing, was encouraging different opinions and perspectives other than my own, and trying to lift student voices up, because education is about teaching us how to have critical thinking, giving us facts, giving us logic, and then letting us come to our own opinions. Like, as young adults who are going to be going into this world, who are the future of this world, it's so important that we're able to take in different perspectives, and then it'll either strengthen our own beliefs or broaden our mindsets. So, like, that's the whole end of the day. It's about student activism. It's about being active. It's about having our voices and having different voices, other than me and Aurora, just expressing and being involved in our community and in our education. So Aurora wants to add anything onto that, she can.
No, I think that's really great. Thank you, Holland. I'm going to put, if anyone is like, if they want to watch the board meeting, kind of like just keeping it informational, we did have, there were 8 other speakers besides Holland and I at the board meeting, and our school district's board meetings run on having 30 minutes of public comment time, and you can sign up beforehand, or what often happens is no one signs up, and so you just sign up on a comment card when you get there. So there were 10 of us who signed up, and they were all students from our high school, and we all like spoke about the importance of keeping this literature from different perspectives available, and they're really great speeches. And at the board meeting, it was just really cool to see how many people came. And there were also like a lot of reporters there. I think 41 Action News was there, and then some other people. But yes, I posted the link, and it starts at like the
19.
it starts at 27 minutes in. Let me make
Okay.
the link. So okay, here's the link. You can watch it later. And that starts at the right time when the speeches start, if any of you are curious to watch that.
Yeah.
And then I think we should answer, there's some questions.
Right.
Here.
And so how did the Northland Parent Association react to the books being unbanned? That's a great. So Jay Richmond went on a radio show, and he claimed that he started saying, well, students couldn't have organized this. It was too well organized, which I take as a compliment, because I think that's very flattering. But they were very passionate about how students couldn't have done this in the school, or someone else had to be behind this, when in reality it was just a lot of students that were passionate about learning, being involved in their community, that we got together and did this together. And so
yeah, they have a Facebook page where they're pretty well, they're not that active on their Facebook page, but they do repost when they're like on the news and when they're on podcasts, and they frequent one Kansas City podcast. The first question here was, what book from April, what book that has been banned surprised you the most? And well, the NPA, they talked about 4 books at their meeting, but they have a full list of about 28. And to kind of also answer David's question, which was a little bit more about the specific content of the books that was so controversial, all the books that were on their 28 book list were there for sexual violence, although most of them were books that I or Holland or like a lot of people at our school and other teenagers I know have read, and we all can, like, most of them do not have the same like sexual violence in them at all as compared to like Romeo and Juliet or the Bible.
I'm like a huge fan of classic literature, and so it was really hurtful, because I was like, I've read Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, a lot of things by Shakespeare, Gothic literature like Edgar Allan Poe, Greek mythology and like the Odyssey. that have much more graphic content in it, but the specific thing that they were targeting was the fact that it mentioned sexual content that wasn't heterosexual. And
Yeah.
there's sexual content, there's that same sexual content in Shakespeare's work. And so it's just really concerning that that's like where they want to draw the line. And yeah, so.
And I can help read some of these questions because I've been kind of keeping track, so you don't have to scroll up and down.
Right.
Sorry,
Okay.
I don't mean to interrupt, because you guys were doing a great job going through on your own. So you've already answered a couple, and I guess before I get to somebody else's questions, I just have a comment. As I told you before we went on, I'm a high school teacher, and what you all are doing is phenomenal. And so like I was getting a little teary-eyed earlier, because also as a queer adult who did not have these resources or didn't think about this stuff when I was a teenager, it really, I don't know how to put it, but it makes my heart happy to see that you all are doing this. It makes my heart happy, because I have a whole bunch of queer kids that I teach that this could happen in my school district, and nobody would be the wiser. So being able to see you all do this, and being able to take this to my kids and be like, hey, you can stand up for yourselves, you can stand up for others, whatever, just makes me happy. And I appreciate you all. But that's what I had to say. Let me ask some of these questions for you all. So we had a question that was asking, what book on that list of 28 books surprised you the most?
I know if you watch the like speeches, some other another student, Lynn, she talked about it, but Fences, August Wilson, you might know him, the playwright, his play Fences, which I read for my literature class, but it's probably the only book on there that's actually, I believe, that was in curriculums, and there is no sex in that book. It's really just that it's from a Black author, and it's about, like, there's racism in it. And another one that was really surprising to see, Nikki, you probably know it since you're a high school teacher, The Hate You Give was also on there, which also no sex in that. It is just about police brutality is unjust, and how that affects the characters in the book. And they're also Looking for Alaska is on there, which does have sex in it, but it's not violent. And there's a lot of books on there that were just like, that's really weird. The only thing that's really in that is that it's from a gay author.
Right. The one that really surprised me was A Diary of a Part-Time Indian, because that was the first, I read that in middle school, and that was the first book I'd read that had representation, Indigenous representation, that wasn't just like from the past. It was like a modern context. And that really surprised me, because it doesn't have, it has like racism and things like that in it, but it doesn't have very sexual content. It doesn't have sex in it. So it was really surprising to me that that was one of the books that was on there, because that was something I read in middle school when I was younger. And
yeah, that's interesting that books that have been in the curriculum made that list. And I personally have some comments on that, but that's another time, another place. So I think we answered another one of them. Somebody was asking, were there any books that didn't involve sexual content? You both named them because they were the ones that surprised you the most. So how did the Parent Association react to the book unbanning? Or was there or did they not respond at all?
Well, there was a parent. There was like 2 or 3 of them that were at that board meeting we went to. And they have, for the last like 6 months, when board meetings have been back in person, they have always frequented them and used their time with the comment cards. And so they were very surprised that public comment was filled. And so all 30 minutes have been taken by the students and I. And then one guy, a parent, was like, I'm a parent. I didn't know you needed to sign up beforehand, and I just want to give my point of view. And like the entire room and the one of the board members was like, no, public time is over. But it was so crazy because like everyone in the room went, no, like you can't
Yeah.
talk.
And there was another parent while one of the students was speaking that started the entire time was like making very negative comments about the students and interrupted one of the students in the middle of them speaking. And that was very frustrating to me just because I'm always open to different opinions than my own. That's always something that I welcome that. But to be like interrupting someone in the middle of them like giving a speech and like you have a right to have your voice, but do not like oppress other people's voices. And so especially when this is a room full of teenagers and there's an adult that is like interrupting someone speaking, that I found like really.
Yeah, that is, I also have comments on that, but I will not interject my opinions on that and choice words. So that kind of goes into the question Russ is asking. As budding journalists, do you see a conflict between reporting objectively and activism?
So this was something we got to speak to journalists, the KC Defender, who's these great Black journalists who I also kind of, asked them the same question. And they really did a great thing, talking to me about how in some circumstances, being objective and trying to cover something objectively is good. And also like me and Aurora aren't going to be covering anything else journalism wise because, we can't really do an objective thing, but our entire staff discussed it and how this has to do with censorship. And so because me and Aurora are more active in it, we won't be covering it due to personal bias, but other staff members can't really cover it objectively either, because as journalists, censorship directly impacts what we do. And so like there's always going to be a conflict of interest there, because as journalists, we're trying to cover the truth. We're trying to cover different perspectives, and we can't do that when people are actively trying to suppress certain perspectives and voices.
Yeah, and that's something that our advisor for our staff was also concerned about, and he kind of like put in like, you guys really shouldn't be reporting on this because you're so involved with it, and we agreed. And I did write an article just like very informational, because at that time I was probably the most informed of just like the facts going on kind of in our staff. So I wrote it in like an hour and we put it on the website, and he of course read it over. And that was at the very beginning. I think that was on like November 1st. So the petition wasn't even out at that point. And I had other teachers like comment, like I showed it to other people and they all agreed. They were like, oh, this is like very well written, and I really didn't even know that like you were involved with it. And so that is definitely definitely something that I was kind of like, I really want to write like an update on this, but I really can't because it's me, like I can't write about Holland and myself. And we have someone from another journalism team, Kaya. She's yearbook. We are a school magazine, so she's going to come and she'll write an article for us and we'll put it on our website. But yeah, they're definitely kind of looking at that line between journalism and activism is really interesting because especially now there is a lot of more kind of that more fusing together with how journalism is like so rapidly changing and rapidly just kind of being online. And so you just have like all of these different perspectives, and sometimes you are obviously going to be like bias. And I think if you're starting an article with like I'm involved in this, and if it's just maybe it's not really an informational article but it's an opinion, then that's your difference.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I've got a couple more questions here from folks before we wrap up. And if you all have questions for them, I'm sure we can figure out a way to get you other folks' questions after these. So Ben is asking, are there other student groups that are pushing back on these bans in other states? You are both doing great work in fighting these bans, but it is a national trend and is very concerning to me.
We are.
Yeah, so there's schools in New York and Pennsylvania that have also had students on the news who have pushed back against these book bannings, and parents who have pushed back and spoken at school board meetings. Jake Alexander was a parent who spoke at a school board meeting about book banning and against it. So it is there's a nationwide pushback, just as there is a nationwide issue.
And we're hoping also because this kind of our story has kind of gone to more like other national like publications, and like websites have published an article about like North Kansas City students fight back about book banning. And I'm hoping like other students will see that and other people will kind of be aware of it. I know I had someone like it's just you have like people from Liberty, which is a district in up here up north, and at Liberty there's like a parent group that is against the right parent group, and hopefully we can go to Liberty and also find some other students and help them kind of assemble their own student group as well. And I'm just hoping we also are able to like inspire other people, just like those students in like New York, etc., that are also kind of keeping up to date with this. Like Holland and I said, we've mentioned like the Virginia school ban, and I kept up with that. So yeah.
Awesome. And Lisa asks, do you know any of the kids of these parents? And if so, do they share the beliefs of their or views of their parents?
Well,
and if you don't feel comfortable answering it, that's okay too.
I mean, yeah, I think we can. Of like all 8 students, like Aurora knew them pretty well. I didn't.
I knew all the other.
But over this process, I've gotten to know them, and like I know some of their parents are very, very supportive. Some of them were there at the school board meeting. So like,
and then support. If you're also asking about like the Northland Parent Association, I personally don't know any of those students of those parents, but I do know that the president, like Jay Richmond, they posted it on their Facebook that his son was like his son goes to Staley, I believe, which is a school in our district, and someone there asked his son to sign the petition, and the son like told the person asking them that he was like, well, that's not true. And the dad, Jay, was like bragging about his son and how his son like agrees with him on everything on that podcast. But I also know the parent, I don't know any of them, but their parents bring up how they're concerned and their children are concerned in their speeches. So I would assume their parents probably do share their point of view. And when it comes to our parents, my mom watched the meeting with us, and I know most of the other people that spoke and their parents were there as well.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, that leads me to my final question for you folks for this morning, or I guess afternoon now. How can we support you all? Yeah, how can we support you and what you guys are up to, and just helping things move forward?
Again, the biggest thing is sign up to, like, if you're not in this school district, sign up in a different like the school district that you know people in, to speak at the district meetings. Talk to your kids, or talk to, you know, if you're a teenager, talk to your, you know, students that you know, talk to people, and just be active, like talking to people, spreading the word, talking at school board meetings, making your voice heard is the biggest thing that you can do.
Well, oh, nope, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying that I definitely agree with Holland, and that really is, if you can just like go to your own board meetings, that's awesome.
Very cool. Well, if you all ever need books, you know where to come to, you know where to find us. This community is definitely in support of getting more materials and more literature in the hands of young folks. So never hesitate to reach out to us. And thank you so much for joining us today, because I know you probably all are going back to school tomorrow too after fall break.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So this is the point in the day where I do my little spiel about how awesome today was, because one, that is true, and two, I like being able to say that. It was a good Sunday. So thank you to Aurora and Holland for speaking today. Thank you to Russ for our community moment, and thank you to Brooke for music. And before I invite Brooke back on, I am contractually obligated to say that Kansas City Oasis is a 501c3. That means we are completely donation run, and we are completely volunteer run. So if you would like to donate to us so we could continue on this 7-year, going on 8-year process of inviting folks that, like we just heard today, and the music we've heard today, please go to kcoasis.org and click on the donate button. You can become a monthly donator, or you can donate one time, which is also good. And without further ado, I will invite Brooke back up to play us out. And Brooke, if you would like to tell us where we can hear you next in a public setting.
Oh, sure.
Let us know.
Let's see here. So I will be, this is kind of a long shot, I'll be in Buckner, Missouri, the first 2 weekends of December, a Saturday and a Friday, at a little distillery. I play with a Bob Seger band on December 11th. You can follow me on Facebook. My name is Brooke Kafka, and I do post all of my performances there. The holidays are coming, so it is a little bit slower this time of year, but definitely come January, I'll be back up and running, playing in several different groups and stuff like that. So, love to see you guys out. This last song I'm going to do here, it's become a pretty popular song in the blues and jam community. It's called "Can't Find My Way Home" by Blind Faith.
Thank you so much. Well, that wraps up today's program. So we hope to see you again next Sunday. Again, thank you to our music, our community moment, our featured speaker, and we will see you all next week. Have a good Sunday.